Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore the world and prevail against all threats. Right now, as a special thank you for all podcast listeners, we're offering 10% off in the ITS store. Simply use the code GTR to save 10% at store.itstactical.com. Welcome to Gear Tasting Radio, where we offer an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives. I'm joined today by Rob.
Hello.
As always, and Jordan, who works with us here at ITS.
How's it going?
Welcome to the podcast for the first time.
Yeah, thank you.
We brought Jordan in because we thought it would be great to get his take on footwear, because that's kind of the topic today that we're going to be talking about. We got a great question in from Adam R. on Facebook, who asked... looking for recommendations on an everyday wear hiking boot, mix of office duties and field work. So not only should they be durable, but low-key enough to wear with khakis or in the office. Currently wearing Salomon Exit Peak Mid GTX, but they're nearing the end of serviceable life. Any suggestions? I've got many suggestions. Yeah. So I think what I'd like to do too is not only address Adam's question, but just kind of use this opportunity to talk about footwear as a whole. So I think first of all, if I was gonna kind of nitpick his suggestion or his footwear selection, I would say that in an office environment he could probably ditch the GTX footwear. I would say that Gore-Tex in a non-outdoor environment is probably unnecessary.
I mean, I can't stand like hot ankles.
I mean, he said he has field work, so I'm sure he is getting out into the field. But I don't know. To me, if truly you have office duties, I would probably change shoes but I hate GTX footwear though. That's my beef though. I can't. I like Gore-Tex as a whole. I think it's a great product and it works really well in jackets. But in my opinion, it's never really worked for me in shoes. Yeah. So
I've had like the worst experiences with anything Gore-Tex because you're either going to be wet.
Even clothing.
Yeah. You're either going to be wet from the rain or you're going to be wet from the sweat. And
right.
It's just you're going to get wet either way. Do you want to be clean wet or nasty, disgusting BO wet?
Yeah. I've had good luck with some of the Gore-Tex I've had in jackets, and what I'm talking about is more the newer generation stuff. Yeah. The older stuff, like back in the early 2000s, sucked. Yeah. I mean, it was terrible, and nothing against Gore-Tex. I know they've always been developing a product, and I think it's great that they continue to kind of push that innovation. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, I think the Gore-Tex product is a different animal than it was 10 years ago. So. Yeah, and I just think that their footwear, Gore-Tex or GTX is what a lot of companies call it when they put it into footwear, and Salomon's not the only one, but I feel like that just hasn't evolved like their clothing has, in my opinion.
No, and it doesn't, because
my feet just wind up getting hot and sweaty and
because 99% of the time your feet are dry and are gonna be dry. Yeah, and if you're in a situation where you're doing like water crossings over and over and over again, you'd be better off getting like a pair of gaiters or like some wading boots or something like that. Mm-hmm. But like I've had instances where...
Or just plain taking your boots off. I've done that before.
Like you're stuck in the rain or something like that. And the Gore-Tex, I had a pair of those Salomon Gore-Tex, but they were low tops. Mm-hmm. And so the second anything is above your ankle...
Well, that's the inherent issue too, is that when they get wet, they stay wet. Yeah. They don't dry. Yeah. And that's not to say the sweat won't dry, because I mean the gist of the system is it's pushing that moisture out into the membrane and out the shoe. But once they become soaked, it can't work because those pores get blocked and things like that. So
I feel bad because where's he from? So I don't want to give him
He doesn't say where he's from, so I mean that would help.
Yeah. If you're in Minnesota, Gore-Tex is probably a good idea.
Yeah. I mean,
snow. Yeah.
If you're dealing with that, sure. I don't know. Honestly, he might want to look at like the new, what are they called? Speed Assaults. Those are pretty good.
I've had really good luck with those.
I like them because they're a good mix for tread life and, I don't know, comfort and lightweight. So I feel like I feel like it's the best product they have on the market right now, offering wise. And it's not something you're going to find in an REI. Those Speed Assaults are a Force product. So it's Salomon Forces, I think is what it's called. Yeah. And you're only going to get them through kind of the the military law enforcement distribution type network. So they work with. If you just Google Solomon Forces, you'll find outlets
Whoever
like
their
Tactical
dealers
Distributors or U.S. Elite or something like that has them. But I'm a big fan of those. They just came out in black now too, so it's not just the tan. And
that might be better for
like
work.
Low key,
yeah. But anyway, I think that what it takes is the lightweight nature of the Speed Across Street shoes from Solomon.
Close enough.
And gives them a better tread or sole.
Yeah.
Because they always wear out on me. The Speed Cross I wrote a big article on it. We can link to that in the episode intel, but I think that's probably one of the best things going right now. And they're a mid-top, which is great too.
Yep.
Kind of a little more support for
just
running.
A disclaimer though, they are not in any way waterproof whatsoever.
No.
The top is like almost a mesh, so like you put your foot in water, it's getting wet. But other than that, they're super comfortable. I've gotten blisters from using them, but that was probably more of my poor preparation than the shoe's fault.
I would be willing to bet too that Adam's comment about ending their serviceable life means he's probably had them about 6 months.
Yeah.
If it's a Solomon.
If it's a Solomon. Well, and there's a lot of information out there based on the insoles and the cushioning in footwear that you should be swapping under a year if you ran it every day.
Yeah, a lot of people don't abide by that though at all. They just kind of look for tread wear as the only determining factor for replacement. But yeah, you're right
and
about that.
then you wonder why they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, why are my feet aching?
Yeah.
I guess the other thing we could do is talk about just hiking boots in general, because I think that's a topic that comes up a lot too, and it would be cool to kind of address that too. And everyone's going to have their own opinions on this.
Right.
This is one of those, I don't know what to tactfully compare it to.
Everybody has their own experiences, like you said, and it's like you have preference. I mean, it's just like guns and stuff like that. Everybody's got the one they swear by. Nobody's right. It's just differences of opinion.
Yeah, like I can't stand looking at what you carry. The big old behemoth in your pocket.
Dirty
CCG.
grandpa pistol out of here.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I can just kind of start. Background-wise, I started running in Bates 924s is what they called them. I don't know if they're still called that anymore, but those are the boots that I knew I was going to be issued in buds, so that's what I started using all the time. I bought probably 2 pairs before I enlisted, and I ran through one pair and had to start on a second one, and I brought those with me, which was great because I had a pair of broken-in boots, to start with, which was pretty cool. And I got lucky. I didn't know if I was going to be able to wear them, and luckily I did get them. But the nice thing about those boots, and like I said, I've probably never even looked at 924s in the last 10 years, but I don't even know if they still make them. But what was great about them is there was hardly a break-in period. They were kind of ready to go out of the box, which was nice, for boots. Typically, it's not like that, and that's kind of what I love about Lower Renegades, which is what I wear now, is because they're kind of the same way. They're ready to go out of the box. I don't have to do much in them. I throw my green Superfeet insoles in them, and they're good to go. And I keep swapping those every time I get a new pair of boots. And I'm actually only on my second pair of Lower Renegades in 7-8 years now, 6-7 years, something like that.
That's pretty good.
So they're doing really good. And I buy the leather line because I'm not a big fan of Gore-Tex and things like that. And that's really worked well for me because they're the most comfortable. They kind of almost, I attribute it to like hockey skates. I know a lot of people don't play hockey, but hockey skates, after you wear them for a while or you bake them, they kind of conform to your foot. And that's how the leather does for me. It just conforms to my foot after a while. So there's no break-in, but after a while, they just kind of mold to your feet.
Like butter.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I really like about them, too. And they're comfortable. I can walk through a lot of different terrain with them, meaning even Texas and cacti and things like that. And I've never really had much of a problem with them. So they're kind of my go-to boots whenever I'm outdoors.
Yeah.
And that time period of them lasting is using them outdoors. I don't wear them on a daily basis.
Sure.
So that's kind of hiking and backpacking and things like that. So we're out on the range. I wear them to the range too, and sometimes it just depends what it's like outside. If it's going to be muddy, I definitely wear those over Solomon's because like we were talking about Solomon's, you dunk your foot into the mud and
done.
Done.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you get cold.
Yeah. But, I mean, so just to give you a little background, we used to have to wear those wool dive socks, and they were horrible. So we first got issued those whenever we got the buds, and then you wore those up until Hell Week, and then you got issued some really good wool socks, like they were called Ultimax socks. I don't even know if they're made anymore. Very similar to Smart Wool socks. Mm-hmm. So kind of not overly thick profile, but still padded enough to protect you. And it was great because we were wearing liners during Hell Week, and those seemed to help a little bit. So they issued you, I think it was 4 or 5 pairs of those Ultimax socks, and then you get liners with them too to wear underneath them. And then before then, you just had dive socks. We didn't have any liners, so those always bunched up in the bottom of your feet, and they were terrible. And I think they caused more trouble than they were worth. So it was nice when we got to move to those socks after Hell Week and stuff like that. So anyway, that's kind of where I've been with boots. I wore 924s throughout the Navy, and then when I got out, I think I didn't really have anything until I found Loa Renegades. So that's kind of where
that's awesome.
My experience came from. How about you?
So when my I guess affair with hiking first started was when I was in the Marines in 2004, and at that time the brown and tan combat boots just came in, so we were kind of limited because they had to, per regulation, they had to have eagle lobe and anchors on the sides. So there was only like really 3 companies that you could choose from. There was like Danner, Bates, and Bellevue, and so like I loved Bellevue, especially their lightweight like jungle boots, because we would do like a lot of boots and utes runs, and like anytime that you're moving around on your feet all day, it's the lighter the weight of the boot that you can get. It's kind of like a key thing there. So that would be my number one hiking boot. But then when we started doing fast roping and stuff like that, I transferred over to Danner boots because it was like a solid leather boot, and the sole was like thicker rubber. So the guys that would fast rope down with the lightweight running boots pretty much would just have like giant holes just burned through the inside of their shoes, or the soles of their boots. So when I went to Europe, we in Germany, it obviously gets super cold. So like the Danner and that's why Gore-Tex is like pretty good for the snow and kind of shedding the snow. But other than that, I really liked for the desert, I liked Oakley boots because they have a kind of a cool tread pattern, which I really hate the Vibram sole, like the stereotypical military Vibram soles, because they don't shed mud. And so, especially if you're in a cold environment, you'll get your feet will get like really muddy, and it'll cake on the bottoms of your feet, and the mud can freeze, and then you just like walk around like ice skates, trying to like climb up rocks and stuff like that, so you'll fall and bust your ass.
But that happened to me at Mammoth too.
Yeah,
mud froze to my boots. So.
It's terrible. Heavy.
Yeah, it does.
But outside of the military, right now I'm kind of like the basic bitch. I have the Merrell Moabs.
Yeah,
that I like. Normally, I'd try to transfer it in between ultralight hiking, or I'll just wear like Keen sandals, or I'll wear if I'm 40 pounds and up, I'll probably go to like a high top Danner boot or a Oakley boot, something like that.
So 1 if you're eating granola, 2 if you're eating an MRE.
Yeah. I've got a slab of salted pork with me or something.
Nice. And you were talking about dress socks, right? That you used to wear.
Yeah. So
wool socks.
So the biggest pain for me would be having to stop. You do like your hour of rucking or whatever, then you do like your hour stop, and then you would either switch out socks like you're on Forrest Gump, or you would do a trick, and the trick was you would get really thin dress socks, and then you would put those on first, and then you would put on wool socks over the top of it. And so the theory is how blisters form in your feet is a separation of skin layers, and then that fills up with fluid. So the friction on top of your skin is separating the the next layer of your skin. Mm-hmm. And so what you're doing by putting a dress sock on top of it, your feet gets like real gross and sweaty, and it sticks to your foot. So instead of the friction taking place in between your sock and your foot, it's taking place between the dress sock and your wool sock. So that kind of helped limit, the blisters and the break time in between the hiking and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was the whole deal with the liners that they gave us too. Was it was supposed to do that, and eventually your feet kind of become accustomed to just wool socks and boots, and you kind of I felt like I didn't need them after a while. Like I wore them during Hell Week, and that was I think midway through I probably ditched the liners because it was just such a pain in the ass. Like every second counts there during that because you want rest and it's just kind of
don't have time.
He's like, I ain't got time to put those on.
Just deal with my feet.
Yeah, I can't even put a sponge on my body. It hurts so bad. Yeah,
I was reading a book and I can't remember what it is, but he had done a really long ruck march, and his feet had gotten calloused from all the rucking that he'd done. But then he took a break, and then he got back into it. And so at the end of the ruck, when he took his boot off, the bottom of his foot stayed in the boot. So basically, the entire bottom of his foot was calloused, and he just separated it. Yeah. And
God.
So it was interesting. You're talking about that, adding that sock as that layer to kind of not trick your feet, but
my feet are strong.
Yeah, just convince yourself otherwise.
Hand. Yeah, I like Leuco tape a lot for stuff like that. I don't know. I guess I'm of the opinion that I'd rather just treat my feet when I need to, and granted, that's a luxury, obviously, being able to stop and take care of your feet, which most people don't, even if they have the time to do it. So a little Leuco tape and an alcohol pad first to make sure you wipe off your feet so the tape sticks. That's really all you need to do. And I always cut Leuco tape, too, so it's got kind of rounded edges on it. So that's nice. Yeah, because what will happen is if you don't, the edge will catch on your sock or something and start to peel it up, and then
you'll have like a massive hot spot.
Yeah, exactly. That'll rub its own blister in your foot. So,
nice.
How about you?
So, I did hiking and stuff as a kid, and it was whatever the military surplus store had for boots. I don't know what they were, but they were the black jungle boots.
Basically, the boots nobody wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And we never really did a lot of distance in them. But I mean, I get blisters at like the drop of a hat. So when I did the first muster, I don't remember how many miles we covered. It was like 15 or 16 over the course of the whole thing. But I had been wearing these. I got them from like a member on a forum. He was like giving them away, and they were 10.5s, and I'm more of a 9.5, 10. And so I was like, oh, it'll be okay. And I had like these super thick, the Walmart wool socks.
Yep.
So I strapped those on, and then I just kind of like denied the foot pain until the end of muster. But when I got home, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
At one point, I was just like dumping Gold Bond powder into the sock and like putting my foot in there just so it could have some cooling. And so the next year, I thought I would outsmart it by wearing...
At least you didn't start with cotton socks or something stupid
well,
like that.
I knew enough of that, but the next year, I decided to go completely the opposite direction, and I wore the Speedcross 3s, which is a trail running shoe, which is also not suited for high mileage. And so it was pretty much like the same situation with a little less blistering. But then I after you had gotten those Loas, I went to like a local store and picked up a pair, and I got the right size, and... I used Smart Wool socks, or no, not Smart Wool, Icebreaker, and my feet are always hot, but at least they're not blistered.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with those Loas that I keep coming back to them, is because I'll go to the Speed Assault or the Speed Cross or something, and I get a hot spot and a blister, and the Loas just don't give me that. They're just a little uncomfortable heat-wise, which is like, I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
And that's true with my feedback with them too. So, like when we were at Muster this last year, I had the speed assaults during our land nav practical, and I was ready to get out of those things by the time it was over with, because I guess it also comes down to a feel too. So I feel that the speed assaults are, even though they have a better sole than the speed assaults, it's still thin compared to like a Loa sole. So you feel the ground more than you do with with a lower Renegade type boot. So, we'd be traversing over, rock formations and things like that. And I was just like, oh my God.
Because your foot's never flat at that point. It's like the craggly rock.
Mm-hmm. So, that was one of my beefs with them, too. Which, I mean, there's an application for all footwear. It's just knowing the right one. So that's kind of the take-home with a lot of that, too. And I did recently find darn tough socks. I found a really good pair that I liked a lot.
They're the best.
That's what I wore during the Mammoth Sniper Challenge this year. Loved them so much I actually buried a pair because I didn't want to carry the weight. I was like, I'm done burying this pair of socks. But anyway, I forget what they are. I think they're the Trek Hike sock or something like that. I'll make sure it's in the episode intel, but that's my new favorite sock. Like, I really love Smart Wool, and I still wear them all the time, but I just was Jason told me about this pair that he's been wearing religiously, and I was like, I'll give those a shot. And they were beautiful. I loved them. Right thickness and everything.
The low profile ones I use as everyday socks. Mm-hmm. And that has been the biggest upgrade, is I no longer wear cotton socks in anything, including
I don't either.
Like sneakers or anything like that. I have just
I bit the bullet on that one too.
Every time I'm able to buy a new pair of the darn tough low profile socks, I buy them. So I have like 8 pairs now, and they hold shape better. They stay
squishy.
Yeah, like they conform to your feet, because the cotton socks after like 4 washings are like loosey goosey.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like clotheslines in your backyard with?
Nope.
No, I just have. I dry mine in the dryer.
Yeah, I dry them in the dryer.
Yeah. I don't have a problem at all with them.
They get on the wool sock train.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think they're 100% wool, the darn tough ones. I think they have a little bit of spandex or nylon or something.
Yeah, but the primary is wool.
Yeah, but they keep your feet super dry. They breathe really well, and they're just really comfortable.
Yeah, I did that like maybe 3 years ago now. I ditched all my shorty socks that I used to wear with shoes all the time and upgraded them to wool socks, and it's been great. Like I mean, it's gross, but I wear them like multiple days in a row sometimes.
Yeah. And it's wool
during
better
workouts. I'll just come after a workout, I'll hang them up and dry them, and then put them on the next morning for working out again.
Well, I mean, you can do that with wool too.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
That's the other thing. Like, we didn't really address that, but wool's got inherent antimicrobial properties, so it helps with controlling stuff like that, like the stink that normally builds up in socks too. And you'll notice too that your footwear doesn't stink either.
Right.
Like it helps your shoes not to stink anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Unless you got like super stinky feet. But,
well, I find a lot of people that have what they call super stinky feet. It's because they either don't wear good socks or they don't wash the socks frequently enough. And then once a shoe gets funky, that's it. It's done. Like, I'll never recover that. I've tried washing them and everything, putting them out in the sun to kill the bacteria, putting them in the freezer. It doesn't help.
Yeah, my only pair of shoes that stink now are these stupid Vans I have on that I don't wear socks with.
Yep. It goes quick.
Yep.
But
what I need to find is like some shorty dress sock wools.
See, but they always slip for me.
Yeah,
any of the no-show socks. And then you can't wear high-top socks because then you're a weirdo.
Yeah.
But how those high-top cotton socks doing for you?
Are those cotton?
Yeah, man. Dickies.
Well, you got an excuse. You got
Yeah. Well, I find that the cotton socks don't feel bad for like a day's usage. But for me, it's whenever I'm on trips and stuff and like have managed to convince myself that cotton will be okay. And then it's like, no, it's not okay. It just stays forever wet.
I think I have a pair of REI wool socks that I got in like 2007 that are still running strong. So, I mean, they last.
That's awesome.
They definitely do. Yep. Take care of Gear. Gear will take care of you.
So when you wear boots, do you wear boots with shorts?
Boots or shirts?
Do you fold your sock down over the top of your boot?
I do.
I used to do that.
No, that stops your laces from coming undone.
Yeah. I've started doing that.
Actually, if you just tie your shoes right, it'll stop your laces from coming undone.
So that's the other problem I have with the lows. That's the only downside, and why I probably don't wear them more often is because they take a much longer time to lace than like any of the Solomon stuff.
Is that because you use my mountaineering technique to lace them?
But also because Solomons don't have a lace. Like, you put your foot in, you zip the little thing like a little kid, and then put the...
Which that bugs me sometimes too, because I'll find that I'll crank those things down, and then either one, they loosen up when I'm walking, or Two, they're so tight that I have to wind up readjusting them.
Because you can't feel your feet
right.
at a certain point.
Yeah, it's kind of like damn if you do, damn if you don't. Yeah. Yeah, and that's so, along the lines with lacing, like whenever I was in buds, I kind of picked up through the student grapevine or whatever how to kind of tie my laces. And what we would do is we would take the lace completely out of the boot, find the midpoint, and then tie an overhand knot, which I started tying little figure eights just to be fancy. But like we would tie a knot at the midpoint so that when you went to put the lace in the boot, you always knew where the middle was. So how sometimes you have to like gauge it, and that was kind of the way to do that, just to make that step easier. And then sometimes you can skip lace too. We would do that occasionally. So like you would take the part where your ankle flexes, and you would skip crossing at that point. So you'd lace up.
So it has more flex.
So you'd lace up the eyelet instead of across the eyelet, if that makes sense. Yeah. So you would kind of skip one that way and then keep going above it. So that was a way to take the pressure off a little bit.
Interesting.
But I don't do that now. I came up with this. I can't say I came up with it, but I was shown this technique by a dude that worked at REI when I bought my first pair of Loas. Like I started lacing up. He's like, "Oh man, you never seen the mountaineering way to lace your boots?" I was like, "No, what's that?" And he like showed me how to do it. It's pretty cool. So it basically involves the last two points you would cross a lace. On the Loas, they have, I don't know what you call them, like it's not an eyelet, not like a true through
it's
hole
a brass
eyelet.
It's like a brass L eyelet.
It's like a speed lace type thing. But instead of crossing at those points, you wrap the lace around itself like 3 times. So let me think of how to describe this. So if I was taking 2 pieces of lace, and I would basically make an overhand cross with them and then just keep wrapping. So there'd be like 3 wraps in the lace, and then you tighten that. And then you go to cross, and then you do the same thing on the next side. And then the last part,
you like bring them up.
Yeah, the last part is like and
then cross them through.
What would you call that? Like the climbers lace. Basically, it's the last two eyelets. You're basically creating what some shoes do with that extra eyelet in the very top. You know how you can you put the lace back through, and it creates kind of almost a loop, and then you put the lace in. It's like a lock.
Yeah, that's something
a lock lace or something like that.
It's similar to rock climbing. For rock climbing,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say, but I don't know if anybody kind of knows the rock climbing technique with that too. But it's designed to kind of lock your foot in so that your heel doesn't lift up. So that's what it's designed to do. So you don't wind up rubbing blisters in your heel. So that's been a saving grace for me, and probably why I love Loas so much is because I can do that with them. So yeah, again, lacing is important. But at Buds, once we got to the top, we would actually tie a square knot in the top so they didn't come undone.
Interesting.
They were kind of a pain to get off, but you can untie a square knot fairly easily too. Yeah. But that was, and then we'd stuff the extra lace in the top of our boots. So it was that was kind of.
I feel like that would rub.
It wasn't bad. I never had any problems.
What were the laces made of?
Just regular, whatever came with the boots.
Oh,
they
okay.
were just regular
so like
laces.
A cotton lace. Okay.
Well, probably nylon.
Okay.
Probably not cotton, because cotton's rotten. All right, thanks for tuning in to Gear Tasting. Remember, if you have questions, use the pound tag Gear Tasting, and we will get them answered here on the show. Remember, if you're enjoying what we're doing here on Gear Tasting Radio, you can subscribe, and we would love to hear what you think about it. So give us a rating and review on iTunes, and be sure to stay tuned every Tuesday for a new episode. Thanks again.